Hi, my name is Chelsey Wilson, and I wrote my paper on Native Alaskans versus non-Native Alaskans for subsistence hunting. I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska, pretty much my entire life. I moved here when I was one, so I knew what it was like to kind of subsistence hunt. We didn't really depend on it as much as people living in the villages do. Um, this is me in Valdez fishing, and then me on a mountain near 101 Stees Highway. What is subsistence hunting? In my opinion, subsistence hunting is hunting in order to survive. A lot of Native Alaskans hunt because they need food to survive because they're in the villages and they don't have the means or probably the money to buy the grocery store foods, and it's not fun. Um, it could be different animals. You could hunt moose, rabbit, deer, whatever you needed, bear, um, whatever to get you by. That's what I think subsistence hunting is. Also, killing things that you need and only need. So you're not over killing the animals or diluting the populations. The complications of subsistence hunting is that you might have shortages of food. Um, the weather is very, very tricky. You don't always have the perfect weather. Um, Also, you might have poachers that are killing off the food, and you're not able to get the right food for your family at the time. If you live in a remote village, the weather is going to be your main thing. Also, supplies. If you don't have supplies, you can't really go out and hunt. I had the opportunity to interview a board of director for the Tanana Chiefs. His name is PJ Simon. It was a really great opportunity to kind of like pick through his brain and see what he liked and talk with him about what he grew up um, doing and how he learned how to hunt. He grew up in Alaskans, Alaska. It's a small village. He says it's not very big. You have to go by bush plane to get there. He said growing up he learned how to hunt mainly from his grandparents, which is what we learned in the class, which just sealed it even more. A lot of the things he was saying connected to me, and I knew what he was going through. He said that he started learning by using a slingshot first and killing small animals, and then he moved up to a 22 and then a long rifle. It was just amazing to kind of listen to his thought process on a lot of things. He was telling me that when they hunted, they used every part of the animal. They just didn't kill just for the meat. They used every single part of it. And they only killed what they needed. They didn't overkill or do anything like that. And he also said, I asked him what the hardest thing about subsistence hunting was, and he says the environment. He said that a lot of the environment has to do with how you hunt. With global warming, it's melting everything, and it's making it harder for animals to migrate. So, experienced hunters that know where to go are all messed up because the animals aren't migrating, and they have to find new techniques in order to hunt. Something else that I thought was interesting is that he said that every hunter has to be smart. It makes sense because when I would go out hunting, we'd always have to bring supplies and a tent and know what you were doing. He said that the way you subsistence hunt is by making plans. You need to know who, what, when, where, pretty much, and how. You need to know what animal you're going to kill and know where it's going to go. Also, you need to know where your location is and how far you need to travel to get there so you can bring enough supplies if you have to stop and camp so you can eat. You also need to bring bait to lure the animals in just in case. Like, if you run out of food, you need the bait to lure in birds, and then you get birds, and then you can make food. It's all very complicated. I didn't think hunting was that super complicated, but then again, I never had to depend on it to live. That brings me to my next topic, the non-native Alaskan ways. Um, I interviewed David Wilson. Um, it was a different, you really look at the whole different picture when you view two people's lives. He grew up in New Jersey, moved to Alaska from the Army, never really had a true experience of Alaska, but I guess he fell in love. He started hunting maybe 5 or 6 years after he came here. Um, he pretty much went out with like a group of his friends and hung out and just hunted to have fun. And once when he actually moved here and had a family, he really depended on the food that he got to feed his family. So when you look at it as the aspect of different people, you could have the poachers that really just like attack the animal and just don't really care about it and just be like, oh, look at its horns, they're pretty, let's take those. Or antlers, blah blah blah. Or let's just take its skin and leave its meat. Then you can have the Alaskans that truly know what it's like to be an Alaskan and hunt and actually use the meat to eat and to survive off of. That's what I think the big ordeal is that people don't understand that not all Alaskans hunt and fish. That's fine, but then you have those Alaskans that hunt and fish and just for the skins and the furs, just to be like, hey, I have a moose fur, or hey, I have a duck sitting on my wall. It's different, and I could see how frustrating it could get with being Alaska Native and seeing your pretty much livelihood die out because people are overkilling it. But back to Mr. Wilson. He now survives off of moose meat. Granted, he has the store to help him out because he lives in Fairbanks, so it's not just moose meat that he's living off of. And my conclusion is that no matter where you live, you always have to be conscious of what you're doing. The environment changes so much. You need to always be aware of the ever-changing environment. Also, be respectful of other people's cultures, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of Alaskans don't respect the people before them. Native Alaskans were truly here before us, and I don't think we respect their traditions as much as they would like, but I think if we come together, we could make a plan to stop overhunting, and I think that's the real big issue, is poachers coming in and stealing people's meat and their food and then having people starve and then have them move into the bigger cities. It's kind of sad, but then again, you gotta be prepared. I think being prepared is the best thing you could do. Just like PJ said, being a good hunter, you need to know who, what, when, where, and why. Thank you. Hope you guys had a good class. Thanks for listening.